Let's continue exploring rhythm. We're going to look at two things in this video, dotted notes and tied notes. And they're closely related, and you'll see as the video progresses what I mean by that. Now, dotted notes add on half the length of the value of the original note to the note that has the dot associated with it. Let me show you an example. Here's a dotted half note. First of all, let me see if you can guess what key signature is this. 3 sharps. Look at your circle of fifths. That's right. We're in the key of A. Now, when you have a dot in front, it adds on half the length of the value of the note. So we have a half note, which usually takes up 2 beats. So now at the dot, it's taking up the equivalent of 2 beats plus a quarter note, because a quarter note is half the length of a half note. So it's taking up 3 beats, in other words. And there's our quarter note rest for the 4th beat. Remember, all the notes and rests together have to equal up the number of beats in the bar. So let me play this for you. I'll do a bar counting so you can hear the timing. 2, 3, 4. So this takes up 3 beats. The 2 from the half note plus the dot, which extends it by a quarter note in length. Let me show you another example of that. Here we have the same thing, 4/4 time signature, a dotted half note which takes up 3 beats, and then another note on the 4th beat. And then on the 1st beat of the next bar we have a rest, and then a dotted half note. And since this takes up 3 full beats, the equivalent of 3 quarter notes of time, this fills up the rest of that bar. Let me play this one for you. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 beats. Let's see how this works in 3/4 time. Now here we have the same key signature A, and we have 3/4. So in this instance, a dotted half note takes up an entire bar, since this is equal to 3 quarter notes in length. You'll recall that we saw in recent videos that a whole note, taking up 4 beats, takes up a whole bar of 4/4. Well, similarly in 3/4 time signature, a dotted half note is what we need to occupy a full bar in length. And this is what this sounds like. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Let's move on and look at another example. And here we have dotted quarter notes. So the same principle applies. The dot extends the value of the note by the equivalent of half the duration. So in other words, this quarter note is equal now to 1 full beat in length plus half of the next beat. So this now extends into 1 and then the downbeat of beat 2, and then this is on the upbeat of beat 2. So this is 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Let me play this for you. So 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1. So again, same principle. The dot extends it by half the value. This is equal to 3/8 notes in length. We know that a quarter note is equal to 2/8. So this is like going 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Let me play it for you one more time. Let's move on to the next example up here. Another dotted quarter note example, this time falling on the 3rd beat. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. So this is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then some 8th notes and a half note. Let me play this one for you. And I'll play it with a bar count in so you can really feel the pulse. 2, 3, 4. One, 2, 3, 4, and 1 and 2 and 3. Now let's look at that in 3/4 time. Here we have 3 beats per bar, and the same principle here. It applies to dotted quarter notes as well in 3/4 time. We're extending it by half the value. So 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3. Let me zoom here a bit so we can see all this in one screen. There we go. 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1. Let me play this for you. So 3/8 notes, and that's the upbeat of beat 2, and there's beat 3. Let's move on here. And we're going to look at some other time signatures. What happens if we use dotted notes in compound time signatures? I'm glad you asked that. Here's 6/8 time. So same key signature, 6/8. So we have the equivalent of 6 eighth notes in a bar. So that's normally subdivided into 2 strong pulses, and those can be notated by dotted quarter notes. Again, let me zoom here so we'll see it all. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now this sign we haven't seen before. This is a natural sign, and I'm digressing here a bit, but what this means is that normally in the key of A, the C would be sharp, would be a C sharp. We get that from the key signature. But in this particular instance, I want that C to be played not sharp, but as a natural, which is what we refer to it when it's not flat or sharp. And this is the natural sign. So this tells me as I'm reading this, not to play the C sharp as I normally would in that key signature, but to make it natural. And then when it appears again later here, it reverts back and is played in the key that the key signature dictates. But I'm digressing. We're talking about rhythm here. So 3/8 notes in value, and this is 3/8 notes in value. So you put that all together and you get 6/8 notes. So let me play a bar of the click and then the exercise for you, and you'll see what I mean. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 3/8 notes in length, and in 6/8 time, this is normally subdivided into 2 strong pulses, each equal to 3/8 notes. So this is a nice way of notating when you want to have 2 strong pulses in a bar of 6/8. And here on the last beat, we see the dotted quarter occupying the first 3/8 notes, and the last are represented by rests. The quarter note, which equals 2/8 note rests, and then the 3/8 note rest to complete the measure. Let's continue on. And here's another example of dotted quarter notes in 6/8 meter. Here we have dotted quarter notes, and here we have a dotted quarter note, and then on the second strong pulse of the bar, we have a regular quarter note taking up 2 beats, and then another note on the third, or the 6/8 note, the 3/8 note of that pulse, but the 6/8 note of the bar. Same thing here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. So let me play this for you. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. So this is ways of subdividing the beat, but again, dotted notes take up the full pulse or 3/8 notes of a 6/8 bar. Let's move on now and look at dotted 8th notes, because this applies to all note values. So 8th notes can also have a dot in front of them, and they'll extend the value by half of that length, which is a 16th note. So let's look at this here. And here we have an 8th note beamed to a 16th note, and there's a dot in the middle. So this makes this equivalent to 3/16 in length. So again, think about basic math. An 8th note equals 2/16. So therefore, an 8th note with a dot will equal 3/16 because we're adding on half the value. So this is the equivalent of 3/16, and this is the 4th 16th note. It's got that second unattached flag to tell us that it's a 16th. And this original note has the single flag telling us it's an 8th and the dot. So we have that same pattern on all 3 beats, and then the 4th beat is just 2 regular 8th notes, and then a dotted 8th and 16th there, 2/8, quarter, and a rest. Let's listen to this. One E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4, 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and 1, a 2, and 3. I'm leaving the E, silent. 1 E and a. 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and 1. The equivalent of 1 E and a 2 E and a 3. Again, let me play it for you. All right, name the tune. Here's a familiar little song that you'll all recognize, and it's got dotted 8ths and 16ths in it. You probably can't tell by looking, but let's listen. So this combines a dotted 8th and 16th and a dotted quarter note later. 1, 2, a 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3. Let me play it for you one more time. That's right, joy to the world. Let's move on now, and we're going to look at ties. They're also referred to as tenutos. That's the official name, but in common usage we refer to them as tied notes. Now what a tie does is it extends the length of a note, or sustains the length of a note. That's the term we use, to sustain the length of a note across a bar line or across a natural subdivision. Let's look at what a half note tied looks like. So here we have a bar of 4/4, Now, what happens if I want this note to sustain across the bar line and play into the first beat of the next bar? You indicate that with this curved line, and that ties the notes together. So now the rule with tied notes is they have to be of the same pitch, because you obviously can't sustain or tie a note when it goes to a different pitch. So this is when you want to carry the same note pitch across a natural subdivision. So let me play this for you. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So it ties across the bar line, sustains in length across that natural subdivision. Let's look at another example of that. Here we have a quarter note that's tied. Let me shorten or zoom this rather so we can see it all. There we go. So a quarter note tied across the bar line. Same thing there. 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Let's listen to what that sounds like. So you naturally get some syncopations when you tie quarter notes like this that fall on non-strong pulses like the second or fourth beat. And let's move on now and continue looking at ties with eighth notes. So here we have a pattern that has eighth notes, and they're tied together 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So let's listen to what that sounds like. So again, we're getting a syncopated kind of feel or rhythm to this by virtue of the fact that we have these tied notes, or these notes that have emphasis placed on them because they're longer than the other ones, that fall on a weak pulse, the second eighth note of beat 2. Now you can notate this as a quarter note instead of two tied eighth notes. Again, you'll see the syncopation when I show it to you in a moment, but 1 and 2 and 3. So the 2 eighth notes, you remember, is equal a quarter note. So we can indicate this by 2 eighth notes beamed and then a single eighth note followed by a quarter note, which ties over the beat division, and then another single eighth note to a quarter note. And that looks like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So this looks different, but it sounds the exact same. It's a way of notating it without ties. So you can figure out for yourself which is easier to read. There's no black and white answer. It depends on the context, but they're both legitimate ways of notating the same pattern. Let me play this for you. And now the original one. They sound the exact same, two different ways of notating it. And let's look at some final examples here. More tied eighth notes. Here they're falling in between a group of eighth notes that are beamed together. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Let's play this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And again, you can notate this with a quarter note replacing that, and it looks like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. It'll sound the exact same. And the original. So again, two ways of notating it, one using ties, the other using syncopations that are displayed by having note values that cross the natural beat division. So that's it for now. Ties and tenutos, as they're called, and dotted notes. Review the video and make sure you're clear with all of that. And in the next video, we're going to look at what happens when we want to divide beats into 3 divisions rather than 2 or 4 as we've been doing. So stay tuned, and I'll see you for more next time.